Welcome back to Frontier Garage, everyone. Today, I'm going to be installing the 2-inch body lift from Z1 Off-Road on the Frontier. So here's the reason why I'm doing this. I'm running negative 10mm offset wheels with 33-inch tires instead of the stock 31s. And with that offset, the wheels stick a little further out past the fenders, and once they start sticking out like that, rubbing becomes way more likely, especially with bigger tires. So this issue is only for the front tires, as the back tires don't have any issue of rubbing. And for the front tires, I have done some trimming already over here in the back of the fender, as well as over here in the front of the fender. And for normal driving, everything works fine. But the moment I flex the suspension and turn the wheel, that's when I still get a bit of rubbing. So here's what I mean. As I'm turning onto the slope, the tire moves up and rubs along the fender right back here. A body lift is a simple way to add a bit more clearance without changing the entire suspension. And since the Frontier is a body-on-frame truck, all the lift does is raise the body slightly higher off the frame using these blocks over here. So these blocks are essentially sandwiched between the frame underneath and the body on top. The frame and everything connected to it, like the suspension components, stays where it's at. Meaning the body lift on its own isn't going to improve your off-road performance by any means. All it's doing is allowing for more clearance for bigger tires, which is exactly what I'm doing in my case. So right here, got the package from Z1. This has everything we need for this lift kit. Alright, so before we go ahead and install the body lift on the truck, I've just kind of gone ahead and laid out everything you get in the package on the floor so we can visualize it better. I say everything, but there's also the tailgate finisher as well as the crash bar relocation mounts, but those are optional, so you don't have to do those. I do have them, so I will be showing you how to install those, but I mean, they're not really essential to the body lift. This right here is the actual body lift, right? So imagine that the left side is the front of the truck and the right here is the rear or the back of the truck. And the good thing is that they come packaged in these separate bags. So these 8 come in this bag, whereas these 8 come in this bag. And that's great because these 8 up here are for the cabin and then, or the front of the truck. And then these 8 are for the bed or the rear of the truck. So it's almost like 2 parts. And that's how we're going to be installing the lift as well. We're going to start with the cabin, do these first, and then go ahead to the back and do the bed. So these 4 are going to go under the cabin, just like this, from front to back. So 4 on the left side, 4 on the right side, and they all have these bolts included with them. Now, the only difference is there is 6 bolts which are shorter, and then 2 which are longer. The longer bolts are going to go on the furthest back 2, whereas the 6 smaller ones are going to go on the front 6. All 8 of these bolts come with these included washers. It's the same washer for all 8, so you don't have to worry about that. But just keep in mind the 2 long ones go at the very back, the 6 shorter ones go in the front. And as for the bed of the truck, you only have to really bolt on 4 of these. So the 4 in the corners, I mean, these are essentially the same, so if you get them mixed up, it doesn't really matter. But 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and then these 4 just kind of sit in the middle. There's no bolt, but as you can see, they have this little indentation that kind of is going to slide in and hold it in place. Now, there is a difference. So the one with the bigger circle are going to go towards the back, and the ones with the smaller circles are going to go in the front. Another thing with these blocks, one side has this slope to it. And that's kind of done on purpose because that helps you with the orientation. So the ones with the smaller circle, which go towards the front of the bed, the side with the cut is going to be facing outwards. So this slope is going to face the outside that way, and this slope is going to face the outside this way. As for the 2 in the back, the side with the cutout, both are going to face the back. But yeah, if you just kind of lay it out like this, just kind of helps me visualize and see where it's going to go on the truck. Now, before we go ahead and actually install the body lift, we're going to have to do some prep work first. So we're just going to take some things apart just so it's accessible for us to reach in and install the body lift. We're also going to loosen up some things so that when we lift up the body, things don't get stretched or caught. All right, so the first thing you want to do, come down here and we're going to remove the fender liner as well as the fender flares. All right, as you can see, I've removed the fender liner as well as the fender flare on the passenger side, and here it is. And there's actually a bunch of screws, bolts, pins that kind of hold these together. And the unfortunate thing is they're both kind of like overlapped in some areas, like they both hold each other together. So you kind of have to remove both. So the fender flare, so that's the back of the truck, that's the front, right? It went on just like this and there. And the fender flare goes on top. There we go. The fender flare kind of goes on top like that. It's not perfect, but you get the idea. So these 7 bolts right here, these 7 go right along the edge here, and those are the first 7 you want to remove. So the furthest back one kind of just goes down here in the actual fender flare, and then as you can see, the next 2 up go through the fender flare as well as the fender liner. That would be these 2, and these 4 are the ones that go up here in this little cutout, which goes through here in the fender liner. Same thing with this one here, goes up in here. And then you have 2 more here in the front, which go through right there and there. So yeah, again, those 7 along the edge are going to be these 7. Pretty easy. You'll either see holes or cutouts where they are. So after you remove these 7, you're going to have these 5 pins, which kind of just look like this. You want to put something sharp in between the gap, pop it up, and then you can just use your fingers to pull it out. It should be pretty easy. And those 5 go, so this is how it would look if you were laying on the floor underneath the truck looking up. And those 5 pins would go, again, starting from the front, 1 right there, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So these 4 are kind of easy to see because they have like a proper place. But don't forget to take this one out in the front as well. You might miss it, and if you're trying to remove it, if it's not coming out, probably because you missed that one. So yeah, those are the 5 pins. All right, next you have these 2 bolts. So this one, that's 12 millimeter hex, and this one is a 10 millimeter hex. So the 10 millimeter one goes up in the front here. It goes right through here, but for that you have to kind of go up at it from underneath. So that's the hole on the front bumper, and it just goes in from the bottom. So that's the 10 millimeter one. The 12 millimeter one actually goes all the way in the back right here. So it's actually going to be that, I don't know if you can see, but the hole right there, that's where that 12 millimeter would have been. And finally, these last 2 are actually hidden on the fender liner right here and here. And I say hidden because you won't really see them until you remove the fender flare, because the fender flare kind of goes on top and covers them, so you can't see these. So yeah, once you remove all 16 of these, you should be able to just fold the fender liner. So you kind of just pull from the back and from the front and just kind of bend it using both arms and then just pull it out. It should come out pretty easily at that point. Again, here's how it should look before it's taken off. This is the driver's side, which I haven't done yet. But again, I've taken off the bottom screw, which was 1, 2, currently taking off this one, 3. Fourth one is going to be right tucked up in there. Fifth one right there. And then 6 and 7. Those are all the outside ones. Once you do that, then you're going to have to go into these spots up there, which I showed you on the other side. Remove all those 5 pins. Once you remove those 5 pins, we're going to remove this bolt back here, which I mentioned. And then underneath here, here's that other one in the front. So those are those 2 bolts. All right, once you remove all the bolts and pins, you can remove the fender liner. However, as I said, there's 2 bolts which actually are holding the fender liner in place that are behind the fender flare. So here's the trick. You want to come to the front of the fender flare, grab it from behind, and just yank at it as well as you can. Now, I've already done this and recording it afterwards, but it will make a loud popping noise due to these 2 or 3 pins up here. There's no real way around that. If you do know a better way, comment down below, but this is the easiest way I found, at least from doing one side. So remove this. Once you have a little give with this, you can come back to the other side. And as you can see, if I pull this back, there's that 1 bolt. And further down, there is the second one. So again, when the fender flare is on, there's no way to remove those guys. And unfortunately, this is your fender liner, and that bolt and this bolt up here hold it in place. So now that that's exposed, you can just hold it to the side with one hand, remove those 2 bolts, and then let the fender flare stay in place. Remove the fender liner, and once you do, you can kind of reach back around behind and squeeze out all the pins and push it so that you don't have to worry about pulling really hard or even breaking pins. That's a really easy way to do it. All right, with that part out of the way, you're gonna come over here and open up the hood, because for the next step, we're going to be making some room up here so that we have adequate room to loosen some of the fittings, because when you put in the blocks, the entire body is going to move up 2 inches. So if there's any wiring harnesses or any other things attached from the frame to the body, it's going to get stretched. So we're just going to loosen those few things up so that when we do lift it, none of the wires get pulled or anything. So again, we're just making room. We're going to take apart the front grille and the bumpers just so we have room, so we can reach in there, loosen all the fittings and wiring harnesses that need to be loosened so that when the body moves up, nothing gets stretched or disconnected. And then we're going to reconnect it once we put in the blocks. So first we're going to remove these 6 pins, 3 on the right side, 3 on the left side, so that we can remove this entire cover. I've already loosened this one up, but just to show you guys really quick, all you want to do is grab maybe a flat head, squeeze it down into there, and then just twist. And once it comes up, you can simply pull it all the way up, grab the bottom one, and pull it out. I'm gonna do this for all 6. Now, in the instruction manual, it says once you remove those 6 pins, this cover should come out. But I found out that's not the case, as if you look under here, there is additional bolts, 1, 2, and 3 on that side. And they require this bit. Now, I just found this in the garage, luckily. It just happened to be in my set. Unfortunately, it doesn't say what millimeter or what size it is, but yeah, this is what you need. As you can see, it fits in there, and you need to loosen this. Again, I apologize, I don't know the measurement or the size of that, but yeah, there's 3 of these. 1 on this side, 1 in the middle, and then 1 all the way on that side. All right, so as you can see, once you remove the bolts, there is still this tab right here, which kind of holds it in place. So what you want to do is go in there and just pull this flap above this tab on all of them, and then you can to pull this piece out. Once you remove it, you have all this open space to now remove the grill, which is held in by a 10mm bolt here and a 10mm bolt here. So I'm going to quickly take those off. Cool. So once you remove these two bolts, this whole piece just gets loose and you just want to pull it out. Again, this stupid thing gets in the way, so you kind of just have to work around it, but I need two hands, so I'm going to put the camera away for a sec. All right, as you can see, this piece, which is what we just took the bolts off, can't just be pulled out. Again, like the instructions say, after you take out those two bolts, just pull out the grill. But it's not that straightforward. As you can see, there's clearly some wiring there as well as down there to the grill, which I believe is my front camera. So yeah, we're gonna have to disconnect all these before taking it out. So first I'm just gonna disconnect this to get this piece out so that I can get a better view down to see what's going on down there before pulling the grill out. I unplugged this wiring harness from here, but I realize it's tied down here and here, and there's clips holding it in place. And I don't want to break these clips because I want to keep this assembly the same way. And I don't have enough room to reach down under this to pinch the pins and pull it up. So I'm letting it rest here for now, and I'm actually going to remove the grill first so that I have more room to kind of get under there from the front. So to remove this grill, you're going to come over on these tabs, push up from below and just push it forward. And just go down the rope, push forward, press down and push forward. As soon as you get all 6 of these out, the grill just comes off really, came off from that end. There is that guy. So there's actually 7. Push that, press forward, and it comes out. I'm going to disconnect this wiring harness, which is for the front camera, so that we can set this grill aside. All right, so now this is how the front of the truck should be looking at this point. So coming back, we disconnected this wire here. However, these two are locked in, and look under, there's the pin right there, and there is the pin right there. So I'm just going to squeeze the pins and push them up and move this off to the side. What I've been saying about squeezing is you just want to reach down under, squeeze this so that you can easily push it through. But yeah, we are going to rest this wire right here next to our front camera. And now this piece is free. So we're just going to grab it and move it off to the side along with our front grille. All right, next we want to remove our front bumper. All right, so to remove the front bumper, you want to come underneath, and the 2 bolts that you want to remove are going to look like this, and they're going to be up right in there. And this is right under the front bumper right here. And then same thing on the other side. Next, we have 3 more pins along the front of the bumper. Again, just get a flathead or something sharp. Get under there and then twist for it to come up. And then you can simply grab it and pull it out. And we're going to repeat for these 2. All right, it's the next morning. It was getting kind of late, so I decided to call it. for the night. But we're gonna just keep going from where we were yesterday. Okay, first things first, let's take out the bumper. So as we did earlier, we removed the two bolts, one here and one on the other side, as well as the pins, which were right here, those three. So apart from those 5 things, there's 2 more things you want to do before you remove the bumper, which is going to be disconnecting the fog lights. So if we just come back behind the front bumper right here, we can see the wiring harness which connects the fog light. So all you have to do is this clip up at the top right here, you just want to press down on it and then wiggle it and pull down. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side for the other fog light. Once you disconnect the wires for both the fog lights, you want to just come up here. I've already kind of started doing it. Grab it from here and just pull out all the way. Go under here, pull out from here. There is clips holding it in place. As you can see, those right there, and these, they're just gonna pop out. You wanna do one side, and then we're gonna go over to the other side, do the same thing, and then it should just pull off directly from the front. So, if you look down here, if you see this bolt, there's actually 4 of these. So 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one over there. These are all still holding in the bumper from the bottom, but there's no way to get to these unless you remove the skid plate. Now, to remove the skid plate, you're gonna need a 14mm hex to take off the 4 bolts which hold in the skid plate, 2 on that side, 2 on this side. So right over here, these 4. Once you remove those 4, you can grab a 10mm hex to then take out these 4 bolts right here. Now, I just have to be careful because I didn't know that these were down here. So I went and started pulling the bumper off, but it wasn't coming off. As you can see, it's off everywhere, but it's just hanging on by those 4 bolts. So when I remove those, I'm gonna have to be careful to hold this. So there we go. So this is how it should look after you remove those 4 bolts in the bottom. Just pulls off very easily. It's not too heavy, so you could just pick it up by yourself or just get a friend to help you out. But yeah, then you just want to set it to the side because you don't want to scratch the paint or anything, because we are going to reuse this, of course, when we put it back. Next, you want to come over and grab this foam piece. It just kind of sits in there. It's these little points which kind of just sit in that hole. I mean, this doesn't really do anything. It's just a piece of foam. I think it might help out with the vibrations. Maybe not. I'm going to save this. Just put it to the side. Might reuse it. Might not. Let's see. Cool. So next, we want to remove the crash bar as well as the radar sensor, which is attached on top. Now, what you can do is just disconnect the wire for the radar sensor and then leave the radar sensor on the crash bar if you're going to reuse the crash bar. And the reason we're removing it is because the crash bar needs to move up 2 inches higher to fit with the stock bumper. So, and it's currently bolted into the frame. So we're going to remove that. And then if you ordered the crash bar relocation mount, you'll just attach it and then the crash bar will sit 2 inches higher, allowing it to fit perfectly in with the bumper. So first thing, to disconnect the radar sensor here, here's the plug. What you want to do is just press down on this pin and pull back. But yeah, once you get the radar sensor disconnected, we can take off the crash bar. In order to do this, there is a 17mm hex bit right there and in here. So 2 right there, and then same on the other side. Now, this side is a little different. So as you can see, this bracket is bolted on and holds this cable. Now, we're gonna have to disconnect this in order to remove the crash bar, and this needs to be loose. As you can see, it's connected on the body and the frame. Now, the trick with this is you want to reach under here and lift this tab up, which then allows you to pull out this little piece right here. So yeah, but even after you remove this, as you can see, they've kind of taped it around, which is annoying, but I'm just gonna cut the tape so that this can then come out and just hang freely. But yeah, you can zip tie this down later. All right, so once you go ahead and unplug the wire for the radar or crash sensor, and make sure you reach in here and pull out this plug as well so the wire is completely free from the crash bar. And then once you remove these 4 bolts, which went up one in here, and then same on the other side. So once you get these 4 bolts out, there's still something else. So as you can see on this piece, there's still 1 and 2 bolts holding it in place. So these 2 bolts up here are your 10mm hex. And there we go. Once you remove those 2 bolts, the crash bar is pretty much free. It's good if you leave these tow hooks in there, because as you can see, the crash bar is just resting on those hooks, so it doesn't fall on you and just easier to remove. This is kind of heavy, it's steel, so you don't want it to fall on you as you're removing these bolts. So here is the crash bar all removed. It is heavy, so be careful not to drop it or anything, especially because your radar sensor is up here, and as it says, you do not want to drop it or damage it. All right, so that's all the prep work done on the front end. As you can see, there's a bunch of loose wires as they need to be so that when we move the body up, they don't get stretched or anything. Yeah, once we install the body lift, you can go back and reconnect them and zip tie them as they need to be. But when you're lifting it, you want them all to be loose so that as you're lifting it, nothing gets stretched or broken. So, for example, what I mean is certain things which are attached only to the body, like this thing, see, this is part of the body, it just goes up. So when the body moves up, we don't have to worry about this wire getting stretched or anything. However, things like this thing, like this wire, which is attached to the frame, but also goes up and clips onto the body, this thing will get stretched as the body moves further up. Now, there is enough slack in it where it should be fine, but these are the types of things you want to look out for. And just, again, see that pin holding it in place? We're just going to remove it so it's hanging freely, allowing it to stretch. All right, now let's do the prep work on the driver's side in the front. So some of the things that you're going to have to loosen up are this one you want to remove completely so that this can dangle freely, number 1. Number 2, right up here, this harness is attached to the body with this pin, so you just want to squeeze the pin and pop it out so that this can be free. 3rd, on your steering, you want your steering column to be loose, so you're going to loosen up this bolt. You don't have to completely remove it, just loosen it so that this can move up as required. And number 4, these are your brake lines. So again, as you can see, they have a lot of flex as they like turn and whatever. So that will flex out. However, they're kind of attached up here. So I'm just going to remove them from this clip so that they can be free as well. So those are the 4 things you need to do on the driver's side. All right, now that the driver's side is done, on the passenger side, there's just 2 things. If you come in here, same thing as the driver's side, this clip, pinch it, push it out. So this is loose. And then if you follow this harness, it goes along the frame, but then right here, it comes up and is attached to the body. Now, if you remember, we did remove this part when we removed the crash bar, but it's still connected here. So I'm going to leave this as is, and I can see that there is plenty of slack here. So I just want to give it some more slack here. So to do this, you just want to grab a flathead, put it in here, pull this piece out, and then once you pull this out, you can just pull this entire tab out. There you go. And then that is loose now. They have taped it with the harness, which is kind of weird, so I'm going to cut the tape, kind of like what I did here, so that this is free as well. With that, our entire front is pretty much done. Passenger, driver, and the front. So now we're gonna move on to the back, which isn't as bad. Doesn't have too many things connecting from the frame to the body itself. So yeah, not too many things here, but over on the driver's side in the back where we have our fuel tank, I'm just going to take this cover apart by unbolting this screw up here, which I've already taken off, and then this piece, after which I can remove this cover. And then I'm just going to inspect where these things, if they're tied down, I'm just going to remove the tie down so they have a bit more flex. And there's the piece. Again, we just removed one bolt, and this was actually just a nut over on this side. So I'm going to just take this bracket off because it kind of holds this in place, which I don't want it to. I want it to have some more slack. And then right in here, if you can see that this zip tie is actually attached to the top of the bed here, which we're going to need to take out because I don't want it attached to the top. I want it to be able to sit, have some slack. And to remove these bolts for the little panel, as well as these up here, they're all 10 millimeters. All right, so once you're done with the fuel lines, you want to come up under the very back of the truck where there's some wires going to the rear bumper. So the rear bumper is attached to the frame and it's going to stay where it's at. So if there's any wires like your sensors or even taillight wires that go up, they run along the frame and then they go up. So you need some slack there. So let me show you exactly what you need to remove. So you come up under here. So what I noticed right up here was, so this wire runs along the frame here and then goes up over here on the body. This was tied up, so I just loosened this up. Same for this wire, it kind of comes up, loops around here, and was attached to that point. You can't really see it with the lighting, but there's a hole right up here where my finger is, below it. So I detached that, so this has slack, this has slack. And this wire also kind of runs along the frame, goes up here, and then loops around. It's really hard to show you guys, but this loops around and was attached to the body here, right? There's a zip tie, so I just cut that, and now this is free, and this has plenty of slack. And then all the way up on the passenger side, these two wires, same thing. This runs along the frame, comes up and attaches to the body, but it was attached at these 2 points. Just cut it loose, has plenty of slack. This one is fine. It doesn't really, this is basically an extension of what we cut all the way over there, so this is fine if it's zip tied. But yeah, that's all you need to do in the back. So for a 2-inch body lift, this radiator hose right here, from there to here, is going to get stretched as this radiator along with the body gets moved up, because the radiator for the Frontier is attached to the body, so it's going to move up 2 inches. Everything else is fine. However, this hose, when it moves 2 inches higher, is not going to reach here, so this is going to be short. Now, the kit does come with the radiator hose, and I am going to attach it, but if you just remove these clamps, there's probably some coolant in here, and that coolant is going to, make a mess. So before you take this off and put in the new hose, you want to come down here, and as you can see, I have already drained 1 quart of coolant, and that coolant drain is found right up here. So this thing, if you just rotate it counterclockwise, coolant will start coming out of here. That's why I had a pan here. I already did that. Once you've drained about 1 quart, maybe 2 quarts, I don't think you really need to go more than 2 quarts. Yeah, just tighten this back up, clean up whatever little mess you make, you're good to go. Essentially, all we're trying to do is whatever fluid's in here, we're trying to get that out. So when you unscrew this, there won't be a mess. All right, so here is our new longer hose for the radiator that comes with the kit. And here's the old one. As you can see, this one comes up, if I put it at the same height, this one comes up higher. Let's take this one out and put on the new one. It's pretty simple install. You're just gonna grab pliers, squeeze this, move it up. Same pliers, grab this, pull this down, and then you should be able to wiggle it off. Keep these clips though, because we're gonna reuse those same clips on the new hose. Cool. As you can see, remove the top here. Now, just going to reach down here, reach down, shake, and there it is. There is our old one. And luckily, since we drained out a quart of coolant, there was nothing in here and no mess was made. Put this to the side and we'll grab our new one. Oh, first, let's take these clips off and put it on the new one. And just like that, the new hose has the clips from the old. Now, just bring in the new one. So the bottom part of the hose is now attached. The top part's supposed to go in here, but it's too big because eventually this part's gonna come up anyway. So I'm just gonna let it sit right here for now. Finally, ready to install the body kit. I'm going to start with the cabin and then do the bed. So the cabin has 8 points where the frame and the body are attached, 4 on this side, 4 on the other side. And the bed has 8, 4 on this side, 4 on the other side. First, I'm going to just go around and loosen all of the existing connections. So, first one is right here, and it's attached by a 17 millimeter bolt. So that's point number 1, right there. Point number 2 is right over here under the front door. Boom, that's point number 2. Point number 3 is right between the front and rear door. So if you just follow that and go underneath, boom, point number 3. And then point number 4 is right at the very back of the cabin. If you just follow that along and look up underneath, there it is. So that is the final one on this side of the cabin. So again, 1 there, 2 right there, 3, and 4. So yeah, that's those 4 right there. And then the driver's side is going to have same ones in the respective positions. So again, I'm going to go all the way around and loosen up all 8. Again, I'm not removing all 8, I'm just going to loosen them up, and I'll explain why. All right, so this is the driver's side, and as you can see, that one is pretty loose. Moving up. Second one from the back of the cabin. You want it pretty loose. Third one from the back, or I guess second one from the front. Very loose. And then, obviously, you have the one in the very front, which is also very loose. So, the driver's side, all 4 on the cabin, you want to get extremely loose, but leave them in there for support. On the passenger side, I've removed all of the 4 bolts right here and just laid them out where they're positioned. So the passenger side, you want to completely remove them. And on the driver's side, I've loosened them up all the way, but they're still in there because we're going to jack up the body on this side. So the frame's going to stay where it's at, but the body is going to come up like so. When it does, I still want those 4 points there to kind of hold it in place and not get the alignment messed up. So we're going to jack it up from here, put in the blocks, put in all the bolts, again, just loosely, and then go on the other side, remove the ones that are pretty loose already, jack it up from the other side, put those on, and we'll be good to go. And by the way, to remove the existing bolts which are in place, you need a 17 millimeter hex to remove it. And then to install the 2-inch body lift from Z1, you need an 18 millimeter. So the new bolts are slightly bigger. As you can see, I've laid out the new 2-inch spacers along with their respective bolts in position. And what we want to do now is whatever bushings and washers that came on the existing ones, we want to transfer over to our new bolts. So here is the new washer, which comes with the new bolt, but you also want to include the existing bushings as well. And that's going to apply for each of them. So if this one has this, make sure you put that on here as well. If this one has rubber one, put that rubber one on there. This one also had a similar piece like that, but it's still stuck onto the joint. It didn't come off, so that will automatically stay on there. Now, as you're jacking this up, you want to go very slowly. Do not rush through this. As you're doing it, keep an eye every so often, check, make sure there's no wires or hoses that are getting pulled or stuck somewhere. If they are, stop jacking it up, go ahead, loosen it up or cut it free, and then keep raising it. But again, go slow and steady, check everything. Do not rush through this part. So all the blocks for the cabin are now installed. Still have to do the bed, but the cabin is now done. As you can see, at least the one in the front, right here, the 2-inch block on this side. Similarly, we got the 2-inch block on this side, and then obviously we have one here, one here, one here. So that's 4 on this side, and then same on the other side. Now, in case you guys are wondering, the reason I don't have footage of me jacking up the truck and putting in the blocks and bolting it in, well, I learned something the hard way. So I was trying to do this by myself. As you can see, I have one jack over there. And as I mentioned earlier, on the passenger side, I removed all the bolts completely. And on the driver's side, I loosened them up, but still left them in. Then I got the jack, put it on this side. Basically, I had the truck up like this. And what I realized was when I went to put the bolt through, it wasn't threading. The top and bottom holes weren't lining up. So here's what I mean. You have the frame and the body. You have a hole in the frame and a hole in the body. And this bolt goes through all the way, holding it in place. Well, when I lifted up the truck like this, what happened was the top hole on the body wasn't lining up with the hole on the frame. So it was slightly, like the top hole was slightly more to the right than the hole on the frame. So the bolt would have to go in at an angle like this, which, I mean, it's just not going to go in. So what I learned was I don't think it's possible to do this with just one jack. Maybe it is, but I don't know how. So basically what I ended up doing was I jacked it back down just to check if the alignment was off, and luckily the alignment wasn't off. So meaning when I jacked it back down and tried to put the bolt in, it still went in fine. Obviously this was without the 2-inch spacer in there. So what I ended up doing is, luckily, I had a friend of mine who also has a jack. So he came and we used both jacks on each side and we lifted it up at the same time. So we had one jack on the passenger side, one jack on the driver's side. We just did a countdown like 3, 2, 1, and then slowly lifted it up at the same time. And when we did that, the holes were still lined up. And then it was pretty much straightforward. Like all you do at that point is the body is held in by the jack. So you have this gap over here, and then you just come in, place this block in here, and then just put the bolt in from the bottom all the way up and thread it in. I don't think it's possible to install this 2-inch body lift all by yourself with just one jack. Unless you have a whole lift where you can kind of like lift arms where they can go in from both sides and lift the body up, then you can do it by yourself. But if you don't have that and you just have one jack, I don't think you can do it, because when you lift up the truck like this, the alignment for the bolt just doesn't match up, or at least it didn't in my case. But yeah, once you get that, it's pretty simple. Like I said, just slide the blocks in, put the bolt in, and tighten it up. And for these bolts, you need an 18 millimeter hex, and then they need to be torqued to 65 pound-feet. For the bed, another thing I learned was so for these bolts on the cabin, I just used a breaker bar to kind of loosen them up by hand. However, you can't really do the same for the truck bed. For the truck bed, you have to have an impact wrench because the bolts are so high up that you have to attach an extender to be able to rotate the breaker bar or your wrench, whatever it is. And those bolts are just so dang tight that it's really hard to knock them loose. So here's what I mean. Right here. That's the a bolt that you need to get loose. Only thing is, you have this on one side and the tire on another side. So there's no room for you to rotate this. And the one back here, which is like all the way up here, as you can see that up there. So there's no real room on these to get it with the breaker bar or just a wrench. So you're definitely going to need an extension, probably I would say an 8 or 10-inch extension and an impact wrench to really get up there and easily remove those. Again, only if the wheel isn't off. The wheel is off, at least for the front one, you have a bit more room. For the bed of the truck, both the old and the new ones are going to be 14 millimeter. So you're going to need this to remove the old ones, and then the same 14 millimeter to install the new ones. Again, the bed only has 4 mounting points. So one in the front, one in the back, and then same on the other side. And the 2 in the middle are just these blocks which don't have a bolt going through them. They just have that circle that kind of just sit there and there. Even for the back, I couldn't really do it on my own. I mean, I was able to remove all the bolts with an impact wrench. However, there's no way to kind of get the jack up under the bed and then just lift the body. There's no real good points. A lot of it's just covered by frames, and then you have your tire. But yeah, the body is just so high up. There's no way to get a jack under there and lift just the body. So the way I went about doing this was, again, the same friend who helped me out with the cabin, that same friend helped me with the bed. And what we decided to do with the bed was, again, I removed all 4 bolts. Once you remove those 4, the bed is no longer attached to the frame. Once the bed is no longer attached to the frame, the bed is fairly light to where one person can easily lift it up. What we ended up doing was my friend ended up lifting the bed from the wheel arches. He kind of just lifted it up. And then I quickly went in and slid in the spacer here, here, and here. So we did those 3 as he lifted it from the side. We went over to the other side, repeated the same process. And then for the back 2 points, all we did was kind of come under here. You could put your fingers through here and just lift this up. So that lifts up the body, because the bumper is actually attached to the frame. So you can't really lift up from the bumper or even the tow hitch. So you just come under here, put both hands underneath that, and just lift up the body. When we lifted up the body, my friend was on the floor and he was able to quickly slide in the spacer on that point and on this point. And once the spacers or the blocks were in for the front and back, we just went in and put in the bolts on all 4, 2 here, 2 there. It might sound easy as I'm talking about it, but in reality, it's kind of tricky, because once the bed is loose and you're picking it up to put the blocks in, the bed does tend to move around and you can lose your alignment. So it did take a bit of trial and error, where even though the blocks were in, the holes weren't matching up to where the bolt could go through. So I was like laying under it, or my friend would lay under it, and then I would just come to the side or the back and then lift it and then move it. Because what we did was we ended up having a light down here so we could see all the way through. And then we could see the hole on top was like slightly back. So if it was slightly back, we'd say, okay, lift it up and move it forward. Or if the hole was slightly on the passenger side, then we would say, okay, lift it up and move it slightly driver's side. you get the idea. Once the alignment was matched up, then obviously it's easy. Then you just put the bolt in, hand tighten all of them, and then obviously you just go in with the impact wrench and tighten them up to 16 pound-feet. Another slight difference for the rear is they highly recommend using medium strength thread locker on all 4 of the bolts that go around the corners. So yeah, don't forget to put the thread locker in before you tighten them up. So yeah, again, apologies for not having actual footage of me putting in the blocks on the cabin or the bed, but as I've explained, it was kind of a pretty tricky process. So yeah, when my friend came over, it was pretty late at night. It was a lot of back and forth, and there was no real time for me to record the footage as well as we were doing it. It's straightforward, but not simple. There we go. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, as you can see, we're all done with the lift. As you can see, the distance between the tire and the fender is significantly higher now, well, or 2 inches higher. I did measure it, and on the front, I have about 7.5 inches, and in the rear, I have about 7 3/4. So the back is about 1/4 of an inch higher than the front, which is actually perfect, in my opinion. That's the way I like it. So yeah, the body lift is all installed and done, and everything is basically going to go back exactly the way it previously was, except for one thing, which is the crash bar. The kit comes with these optional crash bar relocation mounts, which I also ended up getting. So these, you don't have to drill any extra holes, but this is the place where the crash bar was attached. So right here, and same thing over there. Now, what these crash bar relocation kit does is it just bolts on right here, and it basically moves up all these points up 2 inches so that the crash bar can sit up 2 inches higher, so that it will fit in perfectly with the bumper and the grill and everything else. It does come with all the bolts that you need. We are going to use the OEM bolts which held the crash bar in originally. So it was bolted in at this hole and this hole, and same thing on the other two. We're going to use those same bolts, so it'll be 2 on that side, 2 on this side, and they're basically going to go into this hole and this hole. And it's going to mount in right on that piece, the top hole going there, bottom hole going there. Now to install these, you're going to need a 17mm hex, and you want to torque these to 62 feet-pounds. So once those are done, the relocation bracket also comes with these bolts, which now we are going to use to now attach the crash bar to these new brackets. And these are going to go in this hole and this hole. So these were the OEM mounting brackets. The crash bar used to attach here, and now it will simply attach 2 inches straight above. However, these new bolts are 15mm, so you're going to have to grab a 15mm bit to attach them right here and here. And make sure you include the washer. There is a washer that comes with it, so make sure you put the washer as well. And these bolts, you're going to want to torque down to 69 feet-pounds. Alright, as you can see, the crash bar has been reinstalled, this time 2 inches higher. The next steps, we're basically just going to retrace our steps. Whatever we did, we're just going to do in the reverse order and just put it back together. But yeah, I just wanted to show the crash bar because it was slightly different since we relocated it 2 inches up. But everything else from this point is going to just plug back in and go back exactly the way it was. Alright, so as I'm putting all the front end back together, something interesting I noticed, the bumper moved up with the body 2 inches. And certain things down here, which are attached to the frame, didn't. Now, we moved the crash bar up with the relocation brackets. However, that's the only thing that moved up. Now, because the body is raised up 2 inches, this bumper is also gone up. So basically, the bumper was held in with these 4 screws down here, which it no longer is. And this piece is just hanging as well. So this piece was sandwiched and screwed on both the crash bar on top and the front bumper on the bottom, where now it's not connected anywhere, so it's just kind of hanging in the middle. So yeah, and I mean, obviously you're gonna have a bigger gap in between the skid plate and the bumper, because again, the skid plate here is attached to the frame, and the bumper, which is attached to the body, has moved up. So that is understandable. Another thing, we had to remove the tow hooks, because the tow hooks are kind of sandwiched in here, and they kind of come out at an angle and sit here. Well, with the way the front bumper is, they're too low to fit through this gap, so they come about right about here. So I guess you could, if you really wanted, cut this off and then just have your tow hooks hang like right here, but there's no way they're fitting in here. So if you don't want to cut your front bumper, like I don't want to do that, so I've just removed the tow hooks and kept them on the side right here. All right, and the last thing you want to do is, if you can remember, in order to fit on this new hose, we took it apart and drained some coolant. The radiator is a closed system, and when we drain some coolant and open up the radiator hose, we introduce some air into the system. And we can't just simply pour in more coolant into the reservoir, because as we've introduced air, there's going to be air bubbles, which is not good for your cooling system. So what we have to do to fix that is bleeding the system. All that essentially means is we're going to add coolant and then force out any air bubbles that may be trapped in the system. Now, this is very simple to do. Now, first thing is you want the vehicle to be off, which it has been for a very long time, as if you've been installing the body kit. The reason for this is your coolant, when you turn on the vehicle and drive around, it can get hot. And when it's hot, you do not want to open this, as it could spray up. So you don't have to worry about that. It's been off for the past 2 days. So when the vehicle is off, you want to come down here, open up this cover. So once you've taken your cap off, I'm going to be using this coolant fill kit, which makes bleeding your system a whole lot easier. You want to come in and put the rubber side down into your radiator opening. Then you want to grab the cap and simply tighten it, which is going to create a nice little snug fit. Next, you want to just bring your funnel in, slide that in. All right, and now you can go ahead and add our coolant. Now, for the coolant, I've gone ahead with the OEM one from Nissan here. And what we want to do is just pour it in. As you pour it in, it'll go down and fill up the system. All right, here we go. So just pour some coolant in. And also over here, the coolant has reached the max line in the reservoir. So I'm going to stop adding more coolant. We're going to then start up the vehicle, turn the heater on, and let it run, so that eventually, as the coolant heats up, it forces all the air bubbles out. And air is going to go to the highest point in the system. So if all the coolant in the reservoir and in the actual radiator is lower than the coolant in here, when it heats up, it's going to force all the air bubbles up to the highest point, and the air is going to just escape out of here. And that's what we want to do to bleed the system. Start the car up, put the fan down to the lowest, turn the heat up all the way high. And once we did that, the coolant started coming up. And as you can see, you see a bunch of bubbles coming up to the surface. See that? So that's all the air pockets that were caught inside getting burped out. Typically just let it run for like 30 minutes. You can speed up the process if you go and tap the accelerator just a little bit. But it's really important to do this, especially since we took apart the hose and installed a new one and drained some coolant, which definitely introduced a bunch of air into the system. So don't just pour coolant back into the reservoir or whatever and think you're good to go. Otherwise, the water pump is going to suffer. And as you all know, this has an internal water pump. I mean, Car Nut Care has gone over that and everyone has had their 2 cents on that. But point is, you don't want any air pockets in the system as it's cooling. Now, here's a good telltale sign to know when you've gotten all the air pockets out. So as we know, we turned the heater up all the way to the highest setting and the fan down to the lowest setting. So the air coming out should be hot. But if the air coming out is still cold, that's how you know that there's still air pockets in your cooling system. So until this starts to heat up, there's still air pockets in there. Once you're done bleeding, make sure you turn the car off. And you want to just wait till the coolant goes down maybe a little bit. Then you can grab your plug it in. I'm just waiting because it's still kind of hot. But yeah, you're just going to plug this in all the way, pull it out so you don't get any spills. Once you pull it off, take the cap off, be careful. This could be a little warm. And then you just want to put the normal seal on. All right, and this last thing here, which is optional, you don't really have to do if you don't want to, but I've gone ahead and ordered it, so I'm going to do it, is the tailgate finisher panel here. So as you can see after doing the body lift, there is quite a bit of gap here underneath the tailgate to the point where you could see the spare tire as well as the wiring and a bunch of other stuff back here. So I think I'm really glad that I got the finisher panel because this is really bothering me. Now, this panel is $45 extra, which is kind of ridiculous. I guess you could also just fabricate something yourself. I mean, all you need is a little piece to just cover up that. And $45 is a bit overpriced, in my opinion, but it is what it is. So yeah, maybe it doesn't bother you from a distance. Maybe you can't really tell and you don't really care, but for me, that is definitely going to bother me. So glad I got this. It's a pretty simple install. It's basically, you get these two bolts with these nuts, and then you get this panel with these cutouts and 3M tape. And as you can see, these two smaller holes are going to overlap with these two, and that's where the bolts are going to go through. And then this top part is where the 3M tape is just going to stick onto it. All right, so I've just placed the panel in loosely, as you can see here. So this is what it will look like. And then I've just hand tightened the two bolts along with the nuts from the back in. And the reason I've just hand tightened them is because I'm going to go back and remove the 3M tape and then align it up and stick it on. And then I'm going to go back and then tighten up the bolts all the way. As you can see here, the panel also has a cutout which matches this little piece along the body here. So you can use that to kind of line it up and then go from there. All right, and that's how it looks once it's all glued in and bolted on. Definitely a much cleaner look. Still not perfect. I mean, you could clearly still tell that the bumper is way lower than where it should be, but I guess it looks better than just leaving it open. Maybe in the future, I'll probably end up getting a aftermarket like steel bumper for the rear as well, which accommodates for the 2-inch body lift. But I think for now, this looks fine. All right, I'm extremely happy with the way this has turned out. Love the way it looks, and most importantly, the reason that I did the body lift in the first place was so that I wouldn't get any rubbing here in the front, and I've already tested it, and that is definitely the case. Even when the tire moves up all the way at like full compression, I turn it, I don't get any more rubbing. So that worked out just as expected, and in addition to that, I think the truck just looks way better now. Like the stance, the way it sits, it's just perfect. And yeah, if you found this installation video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It definitely helps the channel grow and allows me to keep making more videos like this. See you guys next time.